All right, I've got uh, the hub set down here with all the inside spokes installed, and you've got to remember that you've got short inside spokes, long inside spokes, and the same with your outside. Okay, these are all the way they should be. Your one side is going to go one way, the other side is going to go the other. I just kind of stick them, lay them in between each other like this, and that should be pretty darn close. So we take the rim and we set it up here, and it should just about line up here. Okay, I think. So we're going to start right here. We've got an inside one. I'm going to put these on dry to start with because in case I foul one up, I don't want all the lubricant. I'm going to go back and put the lubricant on. Your outside, or your one side, one side to the other side, your, in this case, bottom to top, should be right next to one another, like this. And then for every top one you do, you should be one, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. It should be the fourth one. And then again, when you put the bottom one in, you should be right next to it. Hopefully you can see that. Let me get that back down a little bit. Yeah, that's better. One, two, three, four. And the bottom one right next to it. One, two, three, four. And the bottom one right next to it. One, two, three, four. And the bottom one right next to it. Okay, now I've got all the inside ones in. They're right next to each other all the way around, so you can kind of check your work. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back and it just gets too messy if you try to do this when you're just starting to set it up. But you want to make sure that you lubricate your spokes. And I'm right here at the valve stem. Actually, I probably better mark it. I'll just put me a little green mark on this one, so I know that's where I started. I suppose any oil is good. The last time I got Buchanan spokes, they sent along the little lubricant thing. So whatever they use is what I'm using. But you want to make sure you use something, because you can gull them and then you've got big problems, especially if you don't have any extra nipples or spokes laying around. Alright, let me get to the next step. Alright, I've got all these just snugged up and all lubricated. And now we've got the outside spokes, and I've got these separated. You've got just a little bit longer. So the long ones go on this side, short ones go on the other side. So these you can just start anywhere, bring them up through. Like I'm probably going to have to loosen this up a little. Okay, I had to loosen it up just a little bit. Now it's not so bad because I'm probably not going to mess up now, so it's pretty easy once you get your inside spokes in. So just put your lubricant on, and you can take a screwdriver, and I guess you better not run them all the way in yet, because sometimes you have to loosen things up a little bit. It's pretty easy to tell where you need to go now. Big thing is to always start with your inside spokes. Otherwise you won't be able to get them in later. So everything just kind of points. And you know, if you've got this one you can't hardly see it on, but there's a couple of these where you can see where the spoke pulled over the top of the wheel or the hub here. So you can kind of tell if you want to use those as a reference. That way you don't have a bunch of those, so you're always covering them up. That's what I'm getting at, I guess. Covering up what was there before. I worked at a motorcycle shop early in my life, and I ran into the problem with I got everything together, and I'd put the outside spokes in first, and that was a big lesson. And the guy I worked for at the time, a man called Ron Hensley, he told me, he says, you've got to make sure you've got those inside spokes first. So that was a big learning experience for me, one I never forgot. Okay, just flipped it over. We'll start on this side now. At this point in time, it's really easy to see where everything goes. You just don't want to tighten everything up because you're just not ready to do that yet. You've got to make sure you've got your distance from where the hub sits in relation to around the rim. I made a note of that measurement before I took it apart, and you want to try to get real close to that, or you'll be off when you get it on the bike, and it won't look right with the fender. So you want to make sure that you measure either side. You just need to measure from if you're on the side that it is with the brake drum up, just make a measurement here to see what your dimension's going to be before you tear it apart. I don't know whether I talked about that when I took it apart, but you do need to do it. All right, got them all in. For some reason, everything looks like it's where it ought to be. So the next step is to get it in the truing stand, and we'll start working on that. All right, we've got this in the truing stand. Been working on it a little bit here. Let me show you where we're at. You can see we've got a little run out there. We'll tighten the close areas on this side and loosen the wide areas on this side, and do the opposite on the other side. It's getting pretty close. Of course, the up and down is, I don't have that. I can show you just a second. And I stick the bar there. You can see there's a little run out that way too, but where the weld is on the rim, you're always going to have kind of a bumpy area right here. So you won't always get that out, but you can get a lot of the other stuff out. But you got to remember too that this is primarily a dirt bike, so you know it's ridden on the street, but it's ridden on the dirt too. So it's not gonna, and it's not a 100-mile-an-hour bike either. So you just get to do it the best you can, and then you know that's all you can do. All right, I think I've got it pretty close here. The up and down, there's a little bit right there, and see this is where the weld is. I've got it marked there. So that's one to be a high spot there. But other than that, it looks fairly good. And let's get this side to side. And again, right there is the weld, and that's what you see kind of lopsided there. Not too bad. Good enough for this kind of bike. So there you go. It's you want to run around here now and just check to make sure all of them are basically the same tightness. You can use a torque wrench if you want to. I usually just do it by feel, and that's good enough. And of course, after you ride it, you want to tighten them all again, just to make sure that they didn't break, didn't work loose on you. But it's not that difficult a job. So if you need to change your rim, or you need to change some spokes, or both, or you want to do what I've done here and take it apart just to paint it and detail it, just go ahead and do it. It's like I say, your inside spokes first. I learned that the hard way. Then you start on your outside, and the outside spokes generally control most of your wobble this way, and your inside spokes control most of your up and down. Not all, but that's the gist of it. That's kind of where you have to work. So when you first start out, if you've got up and down, you want to work your inside spokes. I'm sorry, I lost my battery, went out in my camera. So just to finish up where I was at, the inside spokes generally control your up and down, and the outside spokes control your side-to-side motion. So you try to get your up and down out first using the inside spokes, and then you work on your side-to-side. It's not that hard to do. When you take them apart, just pay attention to how they come apart, and they almost go right back. If you get the first spoke in, the way it should be, you're pretty much good to go. It's pretty much self-explanatory after that. All right, thanks for going along on the ride here.